Hello, I'm Reggie York. This is a presentation on defining the problem, a part of an organizational decision-making unit of study. This is decision-making for the human service kind of organization. At the completion of this module, you'll be able to, one, conceptualize a problem in regard to context and evidence. Two, define the problem in a way that avoids common pitfalls. This is the way this module fits with others. We have conceptualized decision making in regard to routine decisions, new opportunities, and problems that have arisen. This module is about dealing with problems that has arisen, especially in regard to how to define the problem. We have several presentations on problem solving. This one is one. So here is the problem solving process we're going to be talking about. What is the problem? That is the theme of the current presentation. But later we should talk about how can we explain the problem, then how can we assign responsibility for determining the solutions to the problem, and then how can we evaluate possible solutions to make choices. So these are the four major steps in the problem solving process that we'll talk about in the organizational unit of study uh, presentations. This one is about the first one, what is the problem? An organizational problem is a gap between the present condition and the desired condition. What's going on now that's not right, and what will it look like when it is right? It normally is a condition that raises some degree of alarm. It should be distinguished from routine decisions and new opportunities. It is not a routine decision. It is a problem has emerged, and we need to decide what to do about it. I'm going to talk about here a present condition, desired condition, and perception of actors. Let's look at this example. The client no-show rate has gone up in the past 3 months to 30% as compared to 15% beforehand. This is the condition that we consider to be undesirable, a problem. The desired condition, our goal, is achieve to client no-show rate that is reduced to 15% or lower. And here we have a comment about perceptions of key actors. All key staff view this as a problem to be solved and seem ready to work on it. That's not always the case. In some situations, you'll find that key actors do not see it as a problem or they are trying to avoid responsibility and so forth. In this scenario, they all view it as a problem and they're prepared to work on it. So that's good, of course. Your problem solving process should begin with an initial overview of the situation that answers these kinds of questions. What is the organizational context of the situation? What kind of organization is this? What is its mission, and so forth. Number two, what is the evidence that a problem exists? In the previous example, you saw in evidence on client no-show rates. You might also have evidence in another situation of client complaints or in another situation of failure to comply with the regulations that you need to be complying with as an organization. And of course, what are the views of key actors? I'm going to have you hit the pause button and read this. Then I'm going to do the same for the next slide. Okay, I assume you have read this. Now let's do the same thing for these for this slide. Hit the pause button, read the scenario, and get an idea of what this means, and then come back to me. So let's talk about this situation we just discussed. The definition of the problem lays out the path for resolution. It's the beginning point. A poor problem definition will lead you down a path that's not optimal. How different actors define the problem is an important consideration, as we have already mentioned. So let's go back to our problem that we discussed, the situation in the military. What's the best way to define this problem? Look at this option, click on the pause button and read these and decide which of these is the best way to define the problem. Then come back to me. Okay, so do you want to define it as incompetence on the crediting body's part? Is it the need for more staff to help with the situation, or the need for a better system for evaluating outcome? Well, it may be that B will help with C, but the focus of the problem definition should be C. If you do A, you're going to be blaming others, and that's not going to get you anywhere. You don't have much control over the accrediting body, so just don't go there. But you have a need for a better system for evaluating outcomes. That's the best way to define this particular problem. The objective should be the same focus as the problem definition. If you define the problem as increased error rates, the objective should be reduced error rates, of course. If you define the problem as poor staff morale, you should state the objective as improving morale. So keep those two things lined up. Key issues in problem definition. First, does it have the proper focus or draw attention to the most important thing? That's one of the important things here we just mentioned, that blaming the accrediting body is not the proper focus for that situation with the military organization. Is there a basic consensus among key actors about the nature of the problem to be solved? Do they agree on what should be accomplished? Do they have, in essence, goal congruence with one another? Do they believe it's something that should be given reasonable priority, therefore they should be spending some time working on it? That's another kind of question. Is responsibility for problem resolution clear and accepted by key actors? Another theme for discussion. Let's look at how about exploring how others perceive the situation. Do others, the other key actors, see the situation the same as yourself? Let's assume for a minute that you are the decision leader. You have a key responsibility here. Do they believe that leaving the situation alone is a bad idea? If not, why not? Do they see it as too low a priority to gain any real attention? Do they see little hope for resolution? If they don't see hope for resolution, you're likely going to see people avoiding responsibility. That's not my job. That's the other department's job. And also, do they see threats with possible change? Those are kind of key questions to ask. Also, do they define the problem the way you do and embrace the same kind of objective, that is to say, the outcome that they want to achieve? First tip for definition, don't define the problem in terms of a single solution. Problem definition and related objectives should focus on an important organizational condition rather than a particular solution. Should you, for example, define the problem as not enough staff, or B, the waiting time for service for new clients has grown so long that prospective clients seriously deteriorate in functioning prior to the beginning of treatment? I hope you see the second one as being the superior one. The first one is defining the problems in regard to a single solution. It may be that when you finish the problem-solving process, that hiring more staff will be one of the solutions you incorporate, but you shouldn't define the problem that way, because if you do, then you are potentially eliminating the possibility of thinking of other solutions. So you need to focus the definition in the right way in regard to organizational conditions that you need to address. Second tip, accept responsibility. Define the problem in such a way as to embrace responsibility rather than blaming others. We saw the example a few minutes ago of the definition of the problem that sort of placed blame on the accrediting body that was threatening us because we were not complying with all accreditation standards. Well, that's not useful. Should the problem be defined as A, nurses are not showing respect for social workers, or B, discharge plans developed by social workers are not being executed by nurses? Think about that one for a second. Obviously, the first one there is placing blame on the nurses. But the important thing here is not respect. The important thing here is you have discharge plans not being executed. That's an organizational condition that needs to be addressed. Third tip, focus on the bigger issue. To the extent feasible, focus the problem definition on the more important issue, like, for example, client outcome rather than service process. Client outcome refers to how well clients are doing, how much they are gaining from the services we are providing. So that's a more important thing than what kind of service process you use with intake services or whatever. The latter can be important, but is not as important as client outcome. So what does it do? What do we need to do to improve client outcome is more important. Should be more long term rather than short term in regard to the focus. Look at this situation, hit the pause button, and come back to me. Okay, which one did you say? Was it A or B? Well, I would say B. Staff are showing dissatisfaction with Mr. Johnson's leadership. Uh, and this may be because if he's too authoritarian, or it may be because of something else. But it's more important that staff be dissatisfied, I mean, not be dissatisfied, than that we make Mr. Johnson less authoritarian. Becoming less authoritarian may be a solution, but the more important condition is B. To summarize, key issues in problem definition are focus, consensus, and responsibility. Examine the situation for perceptions of key actors to see if there are obstacles to good problem solving. Also, avoid common pitfalls of poor problem definition, such as defining the problem in terms of one solution or placing blame on others. I hope this is helpful to you in regard to defining the organizational problem.